I'm sure you answer about the situation of COVID in Sweden a lot of times these things, but I
Yeah,
suppose it's very usual that people I'm asking, and I don't
yeah,
want
of
to ask
course.
about it because I think we all are saturated of talking of the COVID and the virus and the situation.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, but it's impossible not to think about it. And of course, like for me, I sit here and like talk to people from all over the world.
Yeah.
Like every half hour, I meet talk to someone else in a very different situation, right? So one half hour, I talked to someone in Canada in full lockdown and it's not allowed to leave the apartment, or in Ireland. And then I talked to another Swede and we go like, "Hey, you want to go out for a beer later on tonight?" Yeah, that would be awesome. And then you talk to someone in, yeah, Spain or France, and it's a totally different experience.
What a crazy
Um,
world this
it
year.
it is. I mean, it's unfathomable, but I think Sweden has it easiest without a doubt from my experience and from what I hear, and it kind of makes me feel kind of guilty, because everybody else is having a tougher time about this.
Don't feel guilty because
No,
in
I
some
don't,
way
but
I admire this way of doing a lot of things. Really.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like part of it is how we dealt with it. Part of it is how things work here in Sweden normally. I mean, we are very separated from each other as it is. There are more people living by themselves in Sweden than in any other country in the world, and
Mm.
so that helps. You don't spread it to a lot of people if you're by
I, I,
yourself.
I remember when we were talking in backend that year,
Yeah,
2000 or 2001,
yeah,
that you explain with a couple of friends about the Swedish government helps a lot to the young people with the music and all this kind of stuff. That
yeah,
completely opposite that happens in Spain or Italy or all this country of
yeah,
South Europe. And I remember that with my friends, to be completely wow, in Sweden the government helps the people, the creativity, the music and metal music. That's the
yeah,
most surprising for us.
yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, I mean that is a great thing, and it's the same in Finland and Norway as well. So
Yeah.
it's very like Norway. I don't know about Denmark, but it's probably the same. And of course, I mean that's great. I mean, especially when you're starting out as a young band and you want somewhere to rehearse, and you might want to be able to kind of pay to rent or buy equipment and that kind of stuff. And
Of
yeah, and
course, of
it's
course.
so it's easy. Like the threshold is lower, and it's easy to get into, and that's great. I mean, then once you're established or you're doing it, then you're on your own basically. But I mean, you still have some kind of starting point to leap off from, and it's easy to get into it. Like everybody can do it if they want to. And I
Mhm.
think that's the difference.
Okay, we're here to talk about the new moment.
Oh yeah, we have a new
Uh,
an album.
4 years since Atoma.
Yeah,
I'm sure you answer this a lot of times these days, but I have to ask because
yeah.
it's the longest period that
It really
between
is.
albums.
Yeah, and I mean, most of it is because we've been touring more than we've ever had for an album. And yeah, so almost like three years of constant touring. And then once we decided to kind of cut down on the touring and then just focus on writing, that was early last year. And so we started writing a few songs, and then some other tour came up, and then a couple of festivals came up, and then yeah, so it kind of dragged out a little bit. The album was supposed to come out last year, at least we thought at one point. Then we decided to record it early this year, um, so that it could come out in the summer. And then, of course, all the summer festivals were canceled. That meant like we could take some more time, stay in the studio a while longer, push the release date to the American tour that was going to happen after the summer, like right now. And then, of course, that didn't happen. Then meant, okay, then we stay in the studio a while longer and finish all the songs and make sure everything is as it should be. So it's part, but mostly it's because of the touring schedule that just kept extending. And we had a blast. We had a great time touring for this album. We had a great time with the new guys in the band, and the energy was just there, and we just felt fantastic touring. And so we just wanted to keep going.
And it's not a new thing because you always
No.
play a lot with each album.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. And it just, yeah, this was a little bit longer than before, but and it's just because I mean touring is more important nowadays, like financially, and also like yeah, a lot of like stages and places have opened up for us. We have cool new opportunities to tour. Our organization is better so that we can have more control over it and we can decide more what we want to do instead of like being left and just like tour in support of others. So that has made it much more of a less of a short and more of like a cool experience that we want to have when we go out. So yeah, it's a matter of that. And also you need some time to kind of after you tour that long, you need some time to recharge before you start get into an album, and start writing again, because yeah, it's just you get tired of everything and you just like want to be left alone for a while, and then you could focus a while.
Mhm. I've seen the videos of your recording sessions on YouTube.
Cool.
And you mentioned a couple of times this is the longest period you spend in the studio. I guess it's for this COVID situation. And also, I think maybe it could be because it's not your own studio, but maybe could be considered your own studio.
Yeah. And of course it is, but yeah, and we spent like most of last year. So, and even those videos were recorded early in the recording process where COVID was not a thing. So, or we didn't know about it at least, because we started before that. But yeah, I mean it's Martin's studio, but we can spend as much time as we like there, yeah, we felt like we needed it. We had a lot of material, but we wanted to make it right. We wanted it to be, we wanted it to be very much Dark Tranquility sounding, but also new and interesting and different. And we wanted to utilize Chris and Johan and Anders in the best possible way and make sure that it's just everything is there. And we had a lot of pressure on ourselves. That meant like reworking everything, once or twice or 3 times or 7 times or 15 times sometimes in order to get it right,
Mm-hmm.
And I guess of course it's dangerous to have a studio where you don't have any time limits. You can just fix things until they are broken again.
I agree. It could be very dangerous.
Yeah, for sure. But I think we had maybe not a plan, but at least we had a vision of what we wanted it to be and what it wanted to sound like. And it was just a matter of getting there. And sometimes it did take a long time. So it wasn't too much of that where you just go like, yeah, we fix it just because. And it was, yeah, I think like Martin has really grown as a producer and he's very motivated and he knows what he wants. And that makes it easier for all of us to kind of to work and to have him kind of lead the charge, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. I enjoy especially the parts that you explain about the techniques with the bass, the guitars, or the mics you use. It's not explained usually, and I think it's very interesting because today there's a lot of people interested in recording because there's more chance to record at home with this little interface with a good quality, and a lot of people I think it's interested in this kind of things.
Oh yeah, and me too. There's something that I've been working more with the last couple of years just because I can, and to have to be able to record at home and just and it makes it so much easier. And yeah, and of course I know that's what a lot of people are doing, and you could record the entire album in your living room if you want to, with the right interface and a good microphone, fine, or guitars, whatever. It's good. All you need a room for your drums, but other than that, you could totally pull it off nowadays. We don't want to do that though. We want to use the studio for what it's there for, with the room and the acoustics and everything like that. But at the same time, I love the gear. I love, the stuff that we have in the studio, and I love being able to work with, my favorite microphones or whatever, super expensive stuff. Just because it's there, we can just borrow it. It's just in the other studio. We can just go grab it, and it's like, can we borrow this for a couple of weeks? Sure. It's awesome.
I think that confirms that metal people are a little bit freaky because we buy albums, remaster albums, the same album a couple of times. I want that this sounds a little bit better. We are a little bit freaky of this.
I mean, it's just because it shows it ties together with. I was talking to another guy before, and we talked about how forming a band is basically just wanting to stay young forever. and just so that you can be a
I agree.
irresponsible kid forever and not have to worry about anything. And that goes with toys as well. Like now you're able to buy all the toys that you couldn't buy when you were a kid, and because I mean they are tools, but they're also toys because you love fiddling around with them. You don't always just use them for the purpose they're being built. You love it. You just like, touch it and feel it and work it and fiddle with it. I love that kind of stuff. I'm a total gearhead, and I cannot help it.
Maybe that's the reason, because 22 years later, I'm still doing interviews and talking with the bands that start listening metal. And we can remember when we meet 20 years ago.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, time stands still when you're into metal like this. A little bit at least.
Mm-hmm. We were talking about that you spend a lot of time in the studio. In which aspects of the album do you think reflects this extra time in the studio?
Definitely got like the guitar work. Vocals were like we had more time to experiment on vocals in the writing process to have that integrated more. Normally, I kind of come in latest, like when everything is done, I just write lyrics and just like, here it is, and everybody's like, cool, go for it. Whereas now we actually could really rework it and change things and adapt the songs around some lyric parts or some vocal part. But also to having like Johan and Chris really kind of dig into solos in Chris's part, and for Johan to really kind of be part of like the assembly of the songs and the way that it's put together, So I think like the arrangements and just like the basically kind of producing. Normally we just record what we have written, whereas now everything changed like from day to day because of the time we had, which was good, and we needed it.
Mm-hmm. And what about the relevance in the new album of Anders, Johan, and Chris as the new guys?
I don't know, like for sure, like, Johan loves to kind of he has this control need, so he wants to be part of everything, right? So he wanted to rewrite and fix and do everything. So he kind of took care of all the kind of rhythm guitar stuff and things like that. And so that was integral, and that's something that we really needed, like a fresh pair of ears and eyes, a new perspective, a new kind of way of thinking about it, and some really fresh, cool ideas, because it comes from a different way of thinking, of course, and that was really, really, really cool. And he wrote some songs on the album that we kind of made into Dark Tranquility, whereas he made some of the very, very, traditional Dark Tranquility songs into something new because of his way of thinking and his way of playing. And then Chris kind of provided like solos and leads just so that, to maintain melody and also kind of highlight some of the stuff that was in the songs and to really kind of interpret the emotion of the song. And I just love being a part of that and just sit in the studio and have him just kind of like go nuts and just like go into a song and trying to figure out how to make the most out of every single lead that he's doing, and just incredible. I loved how different the album is because of that,
Mm-hmm. To me, there is all we all know that listening to music is very personal, because for each person means something different. The music,
Sure.
the melodies, the lyrics. To me, there's a lot of great guitar work on this album, and reminds me in some way, in some parts, albums like Haven.
Yeah.
And especially with the solos.
Yeah.
I think the two guitars, and maybe Chris a little bit more, have a lot on it, with this special melody that they have in playing, and reminds me in some way this mix of Haven and maybe a little bit of melody that uses Arch Enemy. I don't know if you agree with it.
No, I don't know. I mean, there's definitely something to that. Yeah, I mean, it was, you try to kind of make the most of the songs. Like sometimes, our songs are very based on melody. First and foremost, there's like a melodic kind of like melody that runs through it, and then we kind of construct rhythm around it. sometimes, and then sometimes the rhythm kind of overtakes it, but then it's great to have like a solo to really highlight the melody and really push that forward, and do something with it, and then kind of take it somewhere else. And I think that's what's so great about like what Johan and Chris does. And of course, yeah, maybe it has some echoes from Haven. Maybe we had the similar thought, when we did that. I can't recall, but and of course, like if it sounds a little bit like Arch Enemy, that's not surprising either. I would imagine.
And it's curious, like we can say half of the band change, and that Tranquility sound is intact.
Yeah,
that's good. It's very difficult, in my opinion, because it's a little bit of a trauma, change a member, but mostly half of the band.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, and of course that was something that we had to be careful about, just to kind of maintain it. And yeah, as I said, like Anders is very traditional in the way that he writes and what he likes, and so is Martin. So having that together with new guys kind of made it, so that it retains what is ours and what is us, but yeah, expands it a little bit, and not too far, and we still have to kind of keep it real when it comes to what we have kind of built up and worked towards, all these years,
Mm-hmm.
And not, I mean, as fun as it would be to just like go nuts and just do all this different stuff that we've never tried before, just because we now can. I mean, that's one thing, but it's not really necessary, and it's more interesting to push the limits a little bit and kind of push things forward, and to maximize the things that we've always been doing, but do it in a different and a new and a better way, hopefully.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure that a lot of fans could think that not to have a member like Niklas in the band could be, I don't know if the correct word is negative, but it's an important member during a lot of years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But I think with this album, listening to the album these last days, I think fans could be very, very proud of your new music, in my opinion.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah, that's what we were hoping. We don't want anything to be missing, We want something to be added to it, And of course, like the way that Niklas thinks is something that we are acutely aware of, and we and Martin and Anders has already integrated that kind of thinking into their music all the time, because we've always known, like, yeah, Niklas is going to play it, so you write it in a certain way that kind of matches his style, and then so some of the stuff were, of course, like with him in mind, because we didn't have any other when we started. So I think subconsciously it does sound like Niklas anyway, because it's written kind of for him, even though it wasn't. So,
but I think he made the artwork.
Oh yeah, for sure, and yeah, so he was extremely involved, in everything that he normally is, except for the music and the guitar playing.
Mm-hmm. And talking about the production, mixing, and this kind of stuff, Martin and Jens did a great job again, and the band sounds amazing to me.
Yeah, I think this, it is our best sounding record. I love it, the way that it turned out, and it was important to have it be more organic, because it's easy, sitting in the studio, we can just like cheat our way through the entire process and just fix everything and just make sure that it's super clinical and clean and sounding very tight and cool, but you lose some of that feel, So we wanted to make sure that we have, the coolest kind of preamps, the best sounding amps, the best sounding microphones, fantastic drum room, a great console to record through, and that kind of stuff, just to utilize everything that we have in the studio, but also make sure that Jens gets cool material that he can work with. We want him to have the best possible starting point, and also to record a little bit different, where it's a little bit looser and not just like strictly to the rules that your digital recording studio software dictates. You know, you wanted to treat it a little bit more like a tape recorder instead of like a workstation. You know, and I think we succeeded. I think, and especially like, and Martin using a lot of analog synthesizers makes for like a more organic sound. So we wanted it to be more loose like that, and I think I think Jens really liked that, and also the way that he mixed it was like to highlight some of that and like have a more organic and warm sounding album, and not just this clinical, super loud, super intense in your face mix, because that's what everybody else is doing.
He have a lot to choose of with scenes, because I remember the part that show in the video all the scenes that have in the studio. My God.
Yeah. I know. It's beautiful. It's I love it. I spend hours there.
I want to mention a couple of my favorites on the album. For example, Identical to Known, it's one of my favorites, and reminds me, we were talking about that it remains some parts of Haven, but especially this one reminds me from minute 2 to 3 to the Sky Dancer.
Ooh.
This fast part.
Yeah. Wow.
Connecting with all that stuff of the first years.
Yeah. Okay, that's very cool. I mean, it wasn't intentional, maybe, but it does happen. I think we try not to be sentimental or nostalgic about our stuff that we've done before, but there's of course a way that it just happens. And also it's funny because Johan is like, he's an old school fan, and he knows all of our songs basically better than we do sometimes. So he can sometimes sit in the studio and he goes like, yeah, this is kind of similar to that song. It's like, what song? Yeah, from the first album. It's like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten that existed even, you know, but he remembers it and he knows it. So maybe that's part of it.
Mm-hmm. Another of my favorite, for example, is Phantom Days. Very good song.
Cool.
But I have to say it's difficult to choose one song.
It's good. That's the way it should be.
Talking about this is a question that in the last times I'm doing to all the people that I'm talking with in the interviews, because do you think this is a good time for release? Sorry about my awful English.
No,
I'll try my best. It's a good time for release an album with all that all we are living without touring, and you mentioned that it's the most part of incoming for a band, and there's a lot of opinions about it. What do you think?
Yeah, of course, like there was discussion, like maybe should we wait till we actually have a tour that will happen so that we could, you know,
that's a question. That's a question.
do it real, and of course. And we realized that, no, it's too uncertain. We have no idea. And we want the album to come out. Like, we don't want to shelve the album and just have it lie there and wait for it to be released. You know, it's too frustrating, first and foremost. But also, like, as a music fan, I would not want my bands, you know, and my records to be postponed, you know, the ones that I look forward to, that I want to run out and buy. So that was never even considered, you know. But of course it is weird to release it, not being able to tour with it. And we know, of course, how much that matters when you have an album with you're playing the new songs and people buy it at the venue when we play, all that stuff. I mean, it is super important. But there's nothing to be done about it. So all we can do is, we do a streaming show and we do the release, and then after that, the big emptiness will swallow us, and we have no idea what to do next. But it is weird. But the option
usually it's more a label thing about the release plan of the album, and the band has not something to say about it.
Yeah, well, we always in talks about, like, but of course, like, there's a release window or what kind of day to best because of all their other releases. But they never suggested we move it, and I think, I mean, it has to come out, and of course it would be great if we had something, but we don't. and at least people will have the music, and we can build up anticipation for whenever it's time to tour. But at least we're going to do one show, you know.
We are in this situation with no tours, no festivals. Something about streaming that you mentioned. Can you explain a little bit about that? Because now the bands are usually start to thinking seriously about this, because in the last months, maybe in 6 months, all will be normal again. But now that in the last times I talked with people, promoters, that have serious problems, money problems to recover the normal activity. And here at least in Barcelona, a lot of people are saying that next year, no festivals again, for sure.
Yeah, it kind of looks like it. And and of course, we need to stay afloat and have some kind of income, and streaming shows, of course, can provide that if you do it right. And we were very hesitant at first, like, do we really want to do it? It feels weird and it's kind of awkward, and it's, But then we decided to kind of, okay, let's really, really investigate what we can do and what is possible and what is cool, and what would be good for us and how can we do it the best possible way. And the way we figured is that we're going to do it as if this was the first show of the tour, and with the full production and playing the whole new album. And it's going to be a beautiful venue here in Gothenburg, which is something that we could never play normally, but now we can. And and all the crew is coming. They are all from Portugal, and we haven't seen them in a year. And now they get to work, and we can pay them for their work. And I really look forward to that, and just making it right. And of course, we want to communicate to people, and if it's through a live streaming show, that's what it is. We got to make the most out of this, what we have now, and that's as good as we can get. And we want to make the most out of it and make it really special and really, really cool. And if this is the first show of the Moment tour, then hopefully there will be a second soon.
It's curious because I usually in these times I remember that I had an interview with Smile from Destruction in May when they released the live their last live CD, and say a phrase that I still remember. Let's say he says, "The music and prostitution will be the last times to recover."
That's going to be tough.
The last things to recover. Come on, man.
Poor people. No, this and crew and entertainment and sports. I think it's rough, and Smir is good. It's a funny guy.
Of course. I'm sure you mentioned you have more interviews. Just if you want to say something more to all the Catalan people that will listen in the next days.
I'm just, let's make the best out of this, and make the most out of it, and and support the bands that you love, buy records, buy streams, be cool, buy t-shirts so you can have something to wear, because that's what bands needs, for sure, like going through this. But we always appreciate the fans that we have in Spain, and we love coming, and let's hope this kind of passes soon, and we have a vaccine that will cover everyone, and everybody will feel safe, and we can go out and hang out and hug and see each other again, and I will scream at you and you'll scream at me and all that good stuff. I love it.
Maybe the t-shirt that you're is this record?
Hey, holy shit. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. The friend that this is a release of a friend, the label that released this friend, or the promo in here in Catalonia is a good friend, and send me this promo.
Holy shit! Yeah, I know Yisha, who is the part of the band in Israel. He is a friend, and he is the promoter of our shows there, and he asked me to sing on their next album. So he sent me like a package, and I got it yesterday, and I was like, all right, I have something to wear today. Awesome! What a coincidence.
It's a good album.
It is really good. Like I got it on vinyl back there, so I'm gonna check it out. I only heard one song so far. But very cool.
Curious because you move a little bit and look, this T-shirt, it's just the CD that I have here in my desk.
What are the odds?